Well, I can easily say that I was moved by all three songs.
Thank you.
That was quite a performance.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, welcome. Welcome to the space.
It's a great space.
To this interview with Under the Sidewalk. So yeah, I just want to toss out a few questions your way. You know, try to get a little bit of a better perspective about who you are as a musician.
Let's do it.
Cool. Question 1. Do you think Drops of Jupiter made Soy Lattes more popular? Are you familiar with the Train song in the late 90s?
Am I familiar with the Train song in the late 90s? Yeah. No, I've never heard Drops of Jupiter. Do I think Drops of Jupiter had an impact on Soy Lattes? I mean, I guess it would have to, right? Like, this was 2002, 2003. I don't think people were drinking that many Soy Lattes. Yeah. Like, Starbucks wasn't big until like 2008.
It was the late 90s.
Was it somewhere in that? Yeah, it's like I'm sure a bunch of people were like, "What's a soy latte?" And they were like,
"What's oat milk?" To be honest.
Although now that I think about it, you probably couldn't Google soy latte at the time. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know to go to a coffee shop and order it. So I don't know how that would work out. But
there were search engines in the late 90s.
Yeah. Okay, you gotta forgive me. I was 5 in the late 90s, man. Like, I wasn't searching soy lattes on Bing. I did have a similar experience though with the Vans sneakers. So I don't know if you guys remember the song "Got Your Vans On," but they look like sneakers. Yes. At the time, I didn't know what Vans were, so I looked them up, and sure enough, 2 weeks later, I bought some Vans. So yeah, I probably.
Did you skateboard as a child or no?
No. I had zero coordination actually. So funny story is my mom put me into basketball camp when I was in 6th grade, and she came to one of the practices like 2 weeks into the camp. And she immediately pulled me out and was like, "Yeah, looks like it's music for you. This isn't gonna work." So, yeah, I wasn't really into skateboarding, but yeah, sure. I guess Train had an impact on Soy Lattes.
Okay, interesting. That's perfect. I mean, it leads me into my second question. Do you think that music has an impact on culture and the way people live?
Wow, we jumped into it.
Deep.
From Train to impact on culture. Yeah, I mean, it has to, right? Like, everything we do has some kind of musical influence. We see all the time, people are like, "Oh, I want to go for a drive on the countryside and just listen to music." It's because we wouldn't have that without music. One of my favorite things, actually, like cultural impact of music, is when you look back at, so I used to be a jazz musician. I played saxophone earlier in my life. Cool. Still obsessed with jazz. And when you look back at when jazz started to become like a major music form, it was during, obviously, times of segregation and things of that nature. And it's just, it turned into this thing where people were so obsessed with jazz music that they didn't care about these, like, cultural ideologies that they had, like black people and white people shouldn't be together. Like, they just wanted to hear the best musician. And if that was a black guy blowing on the saxophone, then
so be it.
They were cool with it. So, I mean, that's one example. And then, of course, you look at like hip hop and how hip hop is one of the, I think, first musics that grew as both a form of music and a culture. Kind of just, they sprouted together in this thing. So when you look at hip hop culture, it's like, we would have none of that without all the guys that were rapping hip hop to hip hop hippie, whatever they were saying in the 80s.
Absolutely.
All that happy rap. So yeah, I mean, there's no way people connect to music so much, and I don't think there's a person on the face of this planet that goes a day without listening to some form of music. So yeah, definitely has a huge cultural impact.
Yeah. I can definitely attest to that. My father doesn't listen to much music, but
he lives a sad life.
He's a weird guy.
So if he doesn't listen to much music, what is the music he listens to?
Oh, it was like the Beach Boys, the Monkees.
Okay.
Simon and Garfunkel.
I saw something the other day that said the Monkees are to the Beatles as the GoBots are to the Transformers. And depending on how you feel about the Monkees, I personally thought it was hilarious. So
I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a good representation.
Perfect. That leads me to number 3. Here we go. How do your experiences help shape your music? I feel like as I was in the audience listening to what you were saying and singing, a lot of it is very emotionally tied.
Yes.
It feels very personal and relatable.
So I've had to think a lot over the past year or so about my style of songwriting and just like how I write songs or whatever. I'm a very vivid and literal songwriter. So all three of the songs you heard are all based on specific experiences or specific moments in my life that drew out some type of raw kind of emotion from me that I felt like I couldn't deal with without writing a song. So for me, in terms of songwriting, I mean, my experiences are my songs. Like, they're one and the same. They go hand in hand. For instance, the first song I wrote, Solitude, I went down to DC to visit a friend. I met this girl at a bar. We hit it off. She gave me her number. And I went back home. I lived in Delaware at the time. And I texted her. And a few hours went by and she didn't respond. And I was like, I hate girls. So I bought a bottle of wine.
Of course. Thomas likes wine.
Right. Just get a gallon of wine.
Fan over there.
And I drank it all.
Yeah.
And I wrote Solitude. And if you listen back to the lyrics, there's a part in there where I say, half drunk, sipping on a gallon of wine, fifth glass, and I'm feeling fine. Actually, really, if you listen to that whole song, it's the sequence of events throughout that entire day. Like, I would just write a line, drink some wine, do something else stupid, write about that. So there's like something about looking through my pictures and I found one of you. I was going through some pictures on Facebook and I saw this picture of me and my ex and I was like, girls suck. Yeah. So I just wrote about it. Yeah. So I mean, you know, I think for most people, their experiences probably influence their music a lot. But for me personally, it's everything. If I don't have an experience, I have nothing to write about. So, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I feel like if you don't have many experiences, you're not really living.
Yeah, I mean, obviously.
Very cool.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do without experiences?
Just lay down and die, I guess.
Yeah, it could be like a Pokemon. You're like a level 5 you. Like, remember in Pokemon, you'd catch the Pokemon and you don't.
What was your favorite Pokemon game? Which color?
Man,
I could only afford yellow.
Oh, but that's cool because you got the Pikachu
It's
following
cool,
you
but
around.
I knew guys who had like the blue and the red, and I was like, I'm not on your level.
Well, I just wish, honestly, so if I'm probably Gold was my favorite, I would say, but I kind of wish like they had stopped after like maybe Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah.
Only because there's like 1,009 Pokemon now.
Do you do the Pokemon Go?
I'm on and off with it. It's kind of like...
I haven't done it really since I moved up to Chicago.
That's the perfect place to do it. That's why I started.
I know. Down Florida is not much walking stuff. You gotta drive everywhere.
Yeah, it's not fun. There's
you
hella
stop
Pokestops.
the car to go.
If you just walk up and down Michigan Ave, you can just rack up
It kills my
Pokestops.
battery, to be honest.
That's fair. I also don't like the whole no battle thing. I'm like a competitive person, so I need something.
You know, in my neighborhood, there was, where I live in Lakeview, there's like a Pokemon competition. Or I was in Chicago. I remember running into it last year with Thomas. And up in Lakeview, there was this whole, like, Pokemon Go event. And, like, everything was super silent. There were a bunch of people walking around, but everybody was, like, headphones, head down in the phones, like, looking, not talking. And at first I thought, like, something is, like, happening.
Zombie
like
outbreak.
Yeah, something like that, or something majorly bad about to happen. But then we realized everyone was just playing Pokemon Go.
I mean, yeah. I see no issue at all here.
You know? You get too involved in this, you forget about this.
I've certainly walked into like 4 or 5 people trying to catch a Pokemon. So
it's too much, and especially when it first came out. Like everybody's all about it.
I was like in the woods in Philadelphia, Canadians. Just like walking around looking for. Like, really, when I look back on it, it was stupid as hell. But you gotta have the experience, right?
Yeah, that's fun.
Full circle. Also, I don't know how we got to Pokemon from that last.
Doug, do you want to open up the questions to the crowd?
Sure. Let's take some questions from the audience. Maybe 1 or 2 hands are raised back there.
Don't be shy. I'm an open book.
Not yet.
All right, I got one.
Oh, there's one. Thomas. Hey, please.
Tomas.
If you could play at one like live music venue, what would the one you'd most like to play at?
I think this is. So I've thought about this a lot. I think this is just the East Coast in me. But one of my dreams has always been to sell out Madison Square. I think it's just one of those it's just one of those marks of like musician, right? It's like it's like the Wembley of America, which I guess really people would say the other way around. either way. But yeah, I think Madison Square would be super dope. My mom's also from New York, so I have a certain emotional tie to New York. Be cool. Oh man.
So this hand first.
You said
Mike Perry, everybody.
Mike Perry.
Other than being bad at sports, what influenced you to become a musician?
I like that you hung on to that. Other than sucking at anything athletic, no. So actually, my grandmother was a musician. She played piano, and I was always really just drawn to music. There's a funny story that my dad always tells about when I was 3 years old, and we were at my grandmother's house, and I guess they heard me like noodling around on the piano. So he got up, like as all dads would do, to be like, "Don't do that." But my grandmother stopped him, and she goes, "Stop, listen, let that boy play." And like he was like, "Okay," and like sat back down. So I and over the course of years, like I found more interest in music and I started playing instruments. But whenever I think about, I guess, the start of my music career, I always think back to that story, and it's like that was really the first person who had some sort of like idea that I was musically talented in any way at the age of 3. And actually, my grandmother left me that piano when she passed when I was 10. So it's still at my parents' house. They're moving soon, so I'm thinking about taking it from them. But yeah, it's just like. It's just always been the thing. Like I feel most me when I'm playing music. I don't really understand much about the world outside of music. So yeah, it's just a thing. I can't really explain it.
Deep.
Real deep.
Real deep. I get it. In the moment, focused, you're loving it. Very
Feeling
cool.
good.
Let me ask you this. How did you come across, do you ever think about, creating a band at some point, or do you collab with other artists? And if so, have you come up with other, names for those bands?
Oh, this is gonna
And what
be
are
fun.
some of your best band names?
I can't wait. Okay. So in the event that I were ever to have like a backing band, which is something I wrestle with, I came up with this really stupid name when I was like 18 because I thought it sounded edgy, and it was like Jared Jones and the Uncivil Truth. And I think I was like
Metal, dude.
listening to a bunch of Prince at the time. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be Prince in the Revolution. But Jared, super dumb. I hate everything about 18-year-old me. This is going to be really funny for people who know me prior to my Chicago years, actually. So I was in a band in high school, and we were this weird jazz, metal, reggae, pop fusion thing. We were called Simple Commotion because, again, we thought that was super edgy. If you're interested, you can go on SoundCloud and find our first EP. So I'm not saying that you should.
You should.
But if you want to hear me playing saxophone in some weird 5-genre mix-up band, be my guest. So Simple Commotion, that was...
Simple Commotion, yeah.
Yeah, we actually, in the idea here of stupid names, we had a song called 2 Less Than 8. And it really has no bearing on the song. Like we could have, we could have just called it 6. But the reason this happened is so the song is in like a 6/8 meter. And one day after practice, we were leaving school, and our drummer at the time, he's like, "Yeah, man, like I really like that song. Like the way it just like that meter. What's 2 less than 8?" And we were like, "Oh, so that's why you failed math." And it just stuck. So like I find it like. There's a certain fun aspect to just kind of doing things for just the stupidity of it. Like my EP is Jared Does Music.
I do a lot of stupid things.
Same.
Ask my boss.
My mom will tell you the exact same. Ask my boss. Does he do a lot of stupid things?
I think I have a lot of great ideas, but he classifies them as stupid things.
Okay, what's like off the cuff, right? What's the first stupidest thing you can think of?
Hot water.
Yeah.
I'm at a ball game, right? I'm at the Cubs. I'm at Wrigley's Field.
Okay.
Watching the game. This guy is walking up and down the stairs yelling, "Cold water, hip! Cold water!" I go, what if there's a game where it's cold out and somebody wants some, moderately warm water?
Okay.
There's a guy walking up and down the stairs and goes, "Hot water, hip! Hot water!" I could easily do that, and I could easily make millions. It's pretty great. I mean,
You know,
it
that's
sounds
not-
a lot better in my head.
You're like
but
halfway there.
it's,
Like,
yeah,
you need like a
that's-
tea bag.
That's a lot of my ideas, actually.
Yeah, there we go. Like, you can't just give someone
You got hot water. You got hot water. Oh, what it? Got hot water, warm water, moderately
I'm really excited
room temperature water.
for when I'm at a Cubs game and I just hear out of the corner of the stadium, hot water. I'm like, oh, it's Doug.
Yeah, it'll throw you off.
Wait, so okay,
That's
so
my go-to idea.
stupid things. Let me preface this by saying I was very drunk in Mexico.
Of course.
All right, cool.
Who isn't?
So one of my friends starts going on this rant about cage-free eggs, and she's like going off about it, and I'm like, I like finally get fed up, and I'm like, why does it matter if the eggs are in cages? Like they're already in eggs. Like they're in the most like uncomfortable position of their lives being in this. And I like 20 minutes of just like drunk Jared. Like this is so stupid. Like why do people care about stuff like this? So they're all staring at me, waiting for me to realize how dumb I'm being. And then like 15 seconds of silence goes by, and I was like, oh, the chickens laying eggs are in cages, and they've not let me live that down since.
Wow.
So, honestly, hot water,
That's-
not that bad compared to
Kind of similar.
eggs in cages.
I think if we were to collaborate on an idea, we'd get something really going.
Hot water in cages.
that guy jealous.
Cage-free hot water.
I'm not gonna get jealous. You become a millionaire, I'll be super happy.
Oh, one day. One day.
Yeah.
Ooh,
The other
the straw
idea
idea.
was that it was, tell them about the idea about your pastraw.
Oh, pastraws.
I don't like this.
Yeah, no, they're great. Basically, it's a straw made out of pasta to stop the whole plastic epidemic of turtles getting them caught in their noses and all that crap that's polluting the water and the environment. A lot of plastic. Let's do less plastic.
Okay, so I
Let's do some
appreciate
pasta.
the sentiment.
Yeah.
My question is, were there any other materials you thought of? Did you just jump straight to pasta? I feel like there's a wood.
There is some
They're
stuff.
like,
Done like 20 years ago.
Yeah, this is the other thing. I come up with these brilliant ideas without even knowing that they already exist.
wait, there's a pasta straw? That's a thing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's backed by, what's his name? The dude from the movie.
Dude,
The dude,
dude from the movie.
Denzel Washington.
No,
that dude.
not that dude.
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff
Jeff
Bridges.
Bridges.
Thank you.
Well, now I have
Like
to.
he backs
invest.
one online and he takes Instagram photos with it and
Yeah.
sipping out of it and
All right, I guess we can
exists.
close out.
Yeah.
Jared, maybe
Yeah.
you should
Perfect.
Give your all your handles and
Yeah, social fame.
hit him with the social.
hit him with the
Facebook, like, share,